Previously, TDD and BDD went head-to-head. Round 1 was a narrow win for BDD. Round 2 was a decisive win for BDD. Then the tide turned. Round 3 went to TDD, and round 4 went the same way. That's 2 rounds apiece, but this bout is far from over. Hello and welcome to Development That Pays. I'm Gary Straughan, and welcome back to the second and final part of our TDD versus BDD battle. Before we get back to the fight, there's the small matter of the question I left you with last time. Here's a quick reminder. You're responsible for a major system. It has excellent test coverage with a full complement of unit tests and a full complement of behavioural tests. Vexingly, there's one failing test. 2 questions for you. Question 1, do you cross your fingers and toes and go ahead and release the live? And question 2, does your answer to question 1 depend on the type of test that's failing? So what do you reckon? Would you release? Alistair, you were clear. If there's a failing test, then the system is not production ready. I would argue that it almost never depends. Andrew, you're clearly a braver man than I, because you said you would be willing to consider going ahead with the release. My answer? Well, as I've just said, I'm not really a brave man, so I probably wouldn't, but let's dig just a little bit deeper. If all of the unit tests are passing and one behavioural test is failing, then that is really bad news. A failing behavioural test means that the contract of what the system is supposed to do has been broken. That, in my book, is a clear don't release situation. The other case, all the behavioural tests passing but one unit test failing, is more nuanced. If all the behavioural tests are passing, then the contract is intact. Everything that the system promises to do, it does. Whatever is failing is having no impact on the promised functionality. One possibility is that the application code covered by the failing test doesn't do anything. So the question might actually be, why not go live? But did you spot the asterisks? These arguments only hold water if the level of code coverage is very high. Which brings us right back to our bout. Round 5, code coverage. A high level of code coverage is, of course, a good thing. The higher the level, the better you sleep at night. But 100% code coverage is a rare and difficult thing to achieve, especially where unit tests are concerned. Levels of 70 or 80% would be considered by many to be very good. For BDD, the picture is rosier. Code coverage percentages tend to be higher. For a microservice with a well-defined API, there's no reason not to have 100% code coverage. So I think this is yet another round that falls to BDD. Round 6, maintainability. The only constant is change. So a good question to ask is, what will cause the tests to change? Any change to the functionality of the code is going to require the unit tests to change. And by the way, if the functionality is about to change, then the tests change first. A change is still development, and the development is still test-driven. What about on the BDD side? Well, not all functional changes impact the external behavior. Going back to the cash machine example for a moment, I could exchange the card transport mechanism for another model. I could exchange the screen for one with better resolution, or I could upgrade the keyboard. None of these substitutions would require a change to this behavioural test. For the sake of fairness, I should also say that the inverse situation is possible. If new and different behaviour can be achieved by rearranging existing code building blocks, then the only required change would be to a behavioural test. But more generally speaking, the high-level nature of the BDD tests, and I suppose more than that, their contractual nature, means that they tend to change infrequently. I'm calling this round for BDD. It's time for the final round, round 7, portability. Unit tests live side by side with the code that they cover. They are highly specific to the way the code is written. They're intertwined. If there's one thing that unit tests are not, it's portable. Behavioural tests are the polar opposite. Remember my behavioural test of trying to start a motorbike? Was that test specific to my motorbike? Was it specific to my model of motorbike? Not at all. That test could apply to hundreds of motorbikes. Behavioural tests aren't at all coupled to code. You could decide to completely rewrite your application in an entirely different programming language, and you could still use exactly the same behavioural tests. BDD wins by a mile. The bout is over. Before we crown the victor, let's remind ourselves of how the battle played out. Round 1 was focus. TDD works from the inside out. BDD from the outside in. TDD is do the thing right. BDD is do the right thing. Both are noble aims, but the judges came down on the side of BDD. Round 2 was reader-writer. Code went up against more or less plain English. The outcome of this one was never in doubt. Another round to BDD. Round 3 was speed, and that was TDD's superpower. This one quickly went to TDD. Round 4, specificity. When something goes wrong, unit tests are your friend. They take you directly to the root cause of the problem. Round 5 was coverage. A controversial round to be sure. 100% coverage for a code base might mean dozens of behavioural tests and hundreds or even thousands of unit tests. But hey, no one said this was going to be a fair fight. Round 6, maintainability. Yes, change is inevitable, but behavioural tests will change less often than unit tests. And finally, round 7, portability. Wow, what a way to end what had been a close-ish match at that point. This one went to BDD by quite some margin. Could I have a drum roll, please? The winner of tonight's main event is... Stop. Just hold it there. Why all the aggression? There's no conflict here. TDD and BDD aren't adversaries. TDD and BDD complement each other just about perfectly. Build your system using both BDD and TDD, and you're building a system that not only does the right thing, but it also does the thing right. You get to have your cake and eat it. Now that's what I call a glorious victory. I'd love to get your thoughts on the whole TDD-BDD battle, if indeed there is one. I'd be especially keen to hear your thoughts on this list of rounds. Are these the ones that you would have chosen? And did I miss one that you would have included? Take a moment now to let me know in the comments below. I look forward to reading your comments, and I also look forward to seeing you next time. Cheers for now.